Laredo, Texas, a city that straddles two worlds, 1 foot in the United States, 1 foot in Mexico. It is a place where language, food, and identity have always been inseparable. And it is here, in this sun-baked border city, that one of the most unlikely business stories in American food history begins. The Rio Grande has always been more than a border. For families like the Garzas, it was never really a dividing line at all. It was simply home, a place where Mexican roots and American ambition grew together, side by side. Laredo is one of the most predominantly Hispanic cities in the United States, a place where Spanish is the first language, where food is sacred, and where family means everything. For the Garza family, all three of those things would become the foundation of a company unlike any other. Mexican-American food culture is not simply about what is on the plate. It is about memory, belonging, and love passed down through generations. The tortilla, above all else, is the foundation, the constant, the connector. For decades, tortillas had been made with wheat or corn. They had been made that way for generations. In Mexican-American households, making a tortilla was not a recipe. It was a ritual. In 2014, the Garza family ran a CrossFit gym in Laredo. It was a tight-knit community of athletes, neighbors, and friends, a place built around discipline, health, and sweat. Nobody could have predicted that this gym would become the unlikely launchpad for a food empire. Verónica Garza was in her 20s when she began experiencing debilitating symptoms. Diagnosed with several autoimmune conditions, including lupus, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and rheumatoid arthritis, she faced a devastating choice. She would need to radically change what she ate or risk watching her health continue to deteriorate. Her doctors advised her to eliminate grains, gluten, dairy, and other inflammatory foods from her diet. Almost overnight, many of the staple foods of her Mexican-American upbringing were no longer options. The tortillas she had grown up eating every single day were suddenly off the table, quite literally. Verónica refused to give up the flavors of her childhood. If she could not eat wheat tortillas, she would invent a new one. Night after night, she returned to the kitchen, her laboratory, her sanctuary, and started experimenting. She explored every alternative she could find: almond flour, cassava flour, coconut flour. Ingredients that were foreign to the traditional tortilla-making process, but that carried within them the potential to create something entirely new. Then came the moment. A soft, pliable, thin disc of almond flour dough, pressed flat and toasted in a dry skillet. Imperfect, slightly uneven, but warm and fragrant. She had done it. Verónica Garza had created her first grain-free tortilla. She brought it to the family table, and the Garzas, all 7 siblings and their parents, tasted it together. The reaction was unanimous. It tasted like home, grain-free or not. Word spread quickly among the gym community. Verónica's tortillas were unlike anything anyone had ever tasted. Grain-free, but genuinely delicious. So the family did something bold. They started selling them right there, at the gym. The first packaging was as homemade as the tortillas themselves. A simple plastic bag, a hand-designed label, and a name. Siete, 7 in Spanish, for the 7 members of the Garza family who stood behind every single tortilla. The Garzas were not food industry professionals. They were a family, bound together by love, by culture, and now by the growing conviction that what they had discovered in that kitchen deserved a bigger stage. So they did what family businesses do. They sat down around the kitchen table and made a plan. The gym members who had tried the tortillas started talking. They shared them with friends, brought them to family dinners, and came back to the gym asking for more. For the first time, the Garzas realized they might have something far bigger than a homemade snack. The Garzas understood intuitively what many traditional food brands did not: that the paleo and grain-free community was alive and vocal on social media. They started sharing their story online, and the response was immediate. Before there were retail shelves, there was the farmer's market. A white canopy tent, a folding table, and the Garza family standing behind a small display of grain-free tortillas, chips, and salsas. meeting their future customers face to face. Demand was growing faster than a home kitchen could handle. The family rented time in a shared commercial kitchen and began producing tortillas in larger batches, still by hand, still with care, but with the speed and discipline of people who had a real business to run. The original almond flour tortilla was just the beginning. Siete Foods quickly expanded to cassava flour tortillas, coconut and cassava blends, and smaller street taco sizes. Each new product was a different answer to the same question. How do you make Mexican-American food that everyone can eat? The moment that changed everything came when Siete Foods earned its first placement on the shelves of a major health food retailer. For the Garza family, seeing their product on an actual store shelf, surrounded by other established brands, was a surreal and defining milestone. Whole Foods Market became one of Siete's most important early retail partners. Placement in Whole Foods was more than a distribution deal. It was validation. It told the entire health food world that Siete Foods was a serious brand. As demand scaled, so did the team. The Garzas began hiring beyond the family, bringing in people who shared their passion for the mission. Siete was no longer just a family project. It was becoming a real company. Every tortilla that left a Siete Foods warehouse represented a logistics chain that the Garza family had built from scratch. From the sourcing of grain-free ingredients to the pallets loaded onto trucks heading to retailers across the country, what began in a borrowed commercial kitchen had now moved into a dedicated production facility. Machines pressed thousands of tortillas per hour. But the recipe and the standards remained exactly as Veronica had first developed them. Tortillas were just the beginning. Siete Foods launched a line of grain-free tortilla chips made from cassava and coconut flour that quickly became one of the brand's best-selling products. The same philosophy, a different format. Siete kept expanding. Salsa, hot sauce, queso dip, taco seasoning, enchilada sauce. Each new product was designed to let health-conscious Mexican-American families recreate the full flavor of their cultural table without compromise. The Siete Foods brand became as important as its products. The packaging, rooted in Mexican-American visual culture, was warm, bold, and proud. It communicated something rare in the health food aisle: heritage. Siete Foods was not just selling food. It was giving a community permission to take care of their health without abandoning their identity. For millions of Mexican Americans navigating dietary restrictions, Siete was a lifeline and a source of immense cultural pride. Siete Foods identified and then helped create an entirely new market category: grain-free Mexican American food. They were not competing with traditional food brands. They were building something that had never existed before. As the company scaled, Siete Foods established its headquarters in Austin, Texas, a city that embodied the same intersection of technology, culture, and health consciousness that Siete represented. The startup had become a real company with a real address. Innovation never stopped at Siete. A dedicated R&D kitchen team worked constantly to improve existing products and develop new ones, always guided by Veronica's founding principle: grain-free, clean ingredients, and flavor that honors the culture. By the mid-2010s, Siete Foods products were being loaded onto distribution trucks and shipped to retailers across the country. A tortilla born in a Laredo kitchen was now crossing state lines by the truckload. The press took notice. Business magazines, food journalists, and podcasts began covering Siete Foods as one of the most compelling entrepreneurial stories in America. A family from a border town that had built a nationally recognized food brand on the back of love, necessity, and cultural pride. By the early 2020s, Siete Foods was available in thousands of stores across the United States, from independent health food retailers to national chains like Target, Walmart, and Costco. The brand had gone fully mainstream without losing an ounce of its soul. As Siete Foods reached hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue, the company began attracting serious attention from the largest players in the food industry. Conversations began, quiet at first, then increasingly serious. PepsiCo, the $86 billion food and beverage giant, Behind Frito-Lay, Quaker Oats, Gatorade, and dozens of household brands, had been watching Siete Foods closely. And in 2023, they made their move. The number that came out of the deal stunned the food industry. $1.2 billion. PepsiCo agreed to acquire Siete Foods for $1.2 billion, one of the largest acquisitions of a Latino-owned food brand in American history. For the Garza family, this was not just a business milestone. It was the culmination of a decade of sacrifice, of sleepless nights, of choosing to believe that a homemade, grain-free tortilla made in a Texas kitchen could change an entire industry. And it had. Today, Siete Foods products can be found in more than 30,000 stores across America. What started as a stack of handmade tortillas on a gym table in Laredo is now a brand that feeds millions of families coast to coast. Siete Foods didn't just succeed in the grain-free market, they helped create it. By proving that grain-free Mexican-American food could be delicious, scalable, and commercially viable, they opened doors for an entire generation of mission-driven food brands. A homemade tortilla, a health crisis that became a calling, a family that refused to choose between their culture and their well-being. From a CrossFit gym in Laredo, Texas, the Garza family built Siete Foods, and in doing so, they changed what it means to eat, to belong, and to build something that matters. Sometimes the most extraordinary businesses begin in the most ordinary kitchens. Thanks for watching. More videos to come on disruption makers. Stay tuned and please subscribe.